Just something to think about in this year of the presidential election. To those that say the ancestors died for your right to vote. One, if you believe that to be true, then you wouldn't vote from the perspective of voting for the lesser of two evils. Two, if you believe the ancestors died for their descendants' right to vote, you would withhold your vote when candidates refuse to put in writing, or worse yet, speak in double talk about what it is that they would give in exchange for your people's vote. Three, if you believe your ancestors died so you can go to the polls, then you will have no problem sitting out an election when no candidate exists that will represent your collective's best interests. Four, if you truly believe your ancestors' blood, sweat, and tears paved the way for you to vote, then you would look back with unfiltered eyes and see what it is that those votes that was cast in the past actually produced for the Negro collective. Excuse me, the so-called African American collective. You see, if you just vote because you have a right to vote rather than vote with a mission, nothing will ever change for our collective. Nothing will ever change. This is why we are still dealing with pretty much the same issues that our elders were dealing with in the 60s and the 70s. They hadn't gone away. We have not overcame. No, what we've done was bought into the illusion that all is well. But if we just take the blinders off, we see we're still dealing with the same issues. Nothing has changed. We still see inequality. We still see our people being held to a different standard when it comes to the judicial system. We see these things. We still see some police brutality. We still dealing with racism, and actually racism seems to be worse now than it was back then. Because now we assist in the racism because we pretend that it don't exist. And or we on the other end of the spectrum where we make everything racist. We get everything convoluted. Neither of those aspects work in our favor. Where we pretend that it don't exist or that we blow everything out of proportion and call it racism. No. I'm just saying this is the year of election. Not just for presidents, but for senators and representatives. And I'm saying we as a people have to start voting with power. Meaning, we have to be willing to withhold our votes when we don't have anybody in our corner. Stop throwing your votes out there willy-nilly. All that make us is co-conspirators to our own collaboration. No. No other groups function this way. Other groups always see what is beneficial for us. Who's finna put their John Henry on the dotted line for our votes. That's how they operate. But Negroes feel like, well, my ancestors died for my right to vote. That's not entirely true. It's not entirely true. And to surmise our ancestors to the point of being simple minded, because that's what you're basically describing. Or just because I can vote, I just go out and just cast the vote just because. No, there has to be a method behind the actions. There has to be a method. We have to act as adults. So when you go to those polls and you just vote because, well, anybody better than who's already sitting in office, that's careless. That is not holding your elders and your ancestors in reverence for the sacrifices that they may have made in order for you to be able to vote. Put some wisdom behind your vote. And if there are no one, there's no candidate that is going to put in writing what they're going to do for our people in plain English and to the point. None of that double talk that we get. If you don't have any candidate that's willing to do that, then they don't deserve your vote. Sit it out. There's power in saying no. Sit it out. This has been a public service announcement for Negroes who are stuck on the notion that their ancestors died for their right to vote.